The juice is loose and Beetlejuice is back. The question is, will audiences go back to see the movie? Today we'll tell you whether or not this is a film worthy of the franchise and whether or not you must go in time to see it in theaters. The deets are back on the big screen. We'll tell you what it means right now. All right, Michelle, I want to go to you first. You've seen the movie. You have watched Mr. Keaton. You have lived in the world of Tim Burton. You have adventured with Jenna Ortega. What can you tell us? Is this a movie that people should be taking their loved ones and friends to go see over the next weekend?
So I've actually only seen the original. Like, I watched it for the first time last year. So I think I'm a good person for this one, in a way, because I'm not necessarily so actually, let me take that back. So know that going into my thoughts on this, I've only seen the first one time. I enjoyed it, but it's not something that like I've just loved all my life, like some of you very well have. I thought this was a lot of fun. I thought it was an excellent sequel. I mean, how long ago was it the first one came out?
36 years, I believe.
Yes, for this to be a 36-year gap, I thought they honored the characters so well, like all the ones that we already know. They introduced two new ones, and Jenna Ortega and what's his name, Jason Theroux, or he was
genuinely funny.
He was funny, yeah, yes. And I just thought they did an excellent job. I enjoyed being in this world. It was very much Tim Burton's world. You had that Danny Elfman music playing throughout the entire movie. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. If you like kind of Tim Burton funky, and I thought it was really funny. This movie was, I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't just Michael Keaton who made me laugh, but Michael Keaton, dang, he was great.
Michelle, I think you actually have an advantage, because you saw the original just last year for the very first time, so it's fresh in your memory. Do you think that if you played the first one and now this one back to back, would they seem to exist in the same world, or would it be jarring in some way, or do you just feel like it was getting right back into that same space?
The only thing that would be jarring is like the camera quality. And I mean, they can't control that. Like, we just have such better camera quality at this point.
I did notice a film grain, much to James Cameron's chagrin. There was a film grain in this that was obvious, and I think it was trying to play back to that. Let's go to Nolan, though. Nolan, you've seen the film. Talk to us without giving spoilers, folks. We don't want to do spoilers. But Nolan, what are some of your favorite takeaways from the movie?
Well, he just mentioned James Cameron, and he's a fraud next to Tim Burton. I want to make that clear. Tim Burton is a genius, and he knows how to make a good movie. So this film, I don't give these out often, but 10 out of 10. It was a brilliant movie, super creative. It is one of those where this film deserved a sequel. I hadn't seen the original Beetlejuice in a very long time, probably like about a decade. I saw it with my father on one of those like Halloween marathon type things on ABC Family or whatever it was. It was a good time, and I enjoyed the movie, but I didn't really pour my heart into it. And there's a huge trend. It's pretty obvious that everything wants to be the 80s, because the 80s were a better time than what we're currently living in. It was a lot more peaceful and a very more welcoming time.
Yeah. Less racial tension.
It was a time everybody wanted to be. There was optimism and people loved it. And movies were a great escape and a great view of the future, or different kinds of styles than what you're used to in life. You know, there's stuff like ghosts and witches and all that crazy stuff. So I was going into this as not really a diehard of the original, but I love Tim Burton. I was going to come into this, and it's just so refreshing to see a movie where you were talking a bit about this with Michelle here, where it feels like a continuation.
Yes.
It feels like there was reason to make this. The whole film didn't feel like hey guys, do you remember the first movie? Let's do it again, like it's Force Awakens or something. This honestly makes a few of the sequels coming out in the past few years that were actually pretty solid to the original kind of look kind of bad in comparison, because I won't give any spoilers, but especially like towards the end, I was just like, I was geeking out in my seat in the theater, like having some hype moments for these characters, because I'm like, wow, this feels like progression. There's things I completely blindsided me in this movie. And it just, I loved it. And it made me appreciate the character more. All of them, I don't really think there was really too many problems with this movie. The soundtrack was stellar. I love Danny Elfman. I can't sing his praises enough. And you know a film is great when I was kind of shocked it ended as soon as it did. I must have been having a lot of fun or something, but it felt short. And that's a good thing because that just means I was having a great time.
So
Nolan, I said coming out of the theater, I thought I still would rate Top Gun Maverick as the very best sequel I've ever seen that many years later. But I said I would rate this right under Top Gun Maverick. I thought it was that good of a sequel that many years later.
Absolutely.
That's good company to be with.
It is.
I have a sense that perhaps the reason this movie will not get tremendous critic scores. Okay, so it's going to be fresh. There's no way they can get around that. But it's not going to get amazing critic scores, and I think that's going to be because they are going to be extra offended at Beetlejuice and the way that he acts, because he does act the way that he did in which is rather, what should we say?
Uncouth.
Yes, he is chauvinistic. He is all of the vices that you recall. And so I think they will have a problem with that. But yeah, I think this is right under Top Gun Maverick in terms of being a great sequel. I leaned over to someone in the theater as the movie was starting and said, why do we have to have nostalgia films in order to get great soundtracks? When the music started up, I thought, why have we stopped this? Why can we not have orchestras with these amazing sounds that are iconic in new movies? I don't understand why we stopped it. It makes it seem like you're there for something big, a spectacle. Thank goodness we're returning to that, at least in this one. And by the way, what makes this such a marvelous sequel, I think, is that there are references to the past, but they're in service of the story. It's not nostalgia baiting. It's not member berries. And it actually, I think, goes beyond the original. I'm willing to say that the original is iconic. Folks, I think Beetlejuice is better than, can I say that? Do it. Hugo. It's better. It's better than the original, I think. And I did not believe that until the final act. The movie is slow about 20% of the way in until about the halfway mark. And it serves the purpose of getting us all of these characters into where it needs to be. And there's even a Sixth Sense sort of story in here that is that caught me off guard. And that was great. And I loved being surprised because movies rarely surprise me. But for all those reasons, yeah, I think this is a really, really good movie. And there's listen, I am a huge fan of the kind of humor you find in like Ghostbusters or in the original Beetlejuice. It's that humor that you don't pause. You don't need a laugh track. It's just cynical and quiet, and it just happens, right? It's the little tiny things. And they're all in this movie where they're just simple things are said that just make you chuckle. And that's such a great time. So,
and it's not just Beetlejuice either. The other characters have great lines too. And you're not just going off of an iconic character from the past. The new ones have a lot of funny moments. And this film is going to be even better when it's like Halloween time and it's going to be fall and it's going to be a bit cool and it's going to be all the Halloween movies. You're going to be hanging out with the friends. Like, this film is going to have a long lifespan ahead of it, I think.
I think, yes, I agree. I think this is going to become one of the must-watch Halloween movies going forward. It's going to be up there with Hocus Pocus, not Hocus Pocus 2. How dare you? It's going to be up there with, we won't go through all the Halloween movies, but it's going to be up there. Nightmare Before Christmas. Yes, Tim, you've got a second one. Caroline. Yes, Tim, you've got a third one. Anyway, Michelle.
Addams Family movies.
Yeah, absolutely. No one gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm not willing to go that far, but Michelle, what did not work for you in this film? What are some of the low points of it?
There's really nothing in it that my brain thinks of a low point. I think you already said it best. Of the first 30 minutes, it moves a little slow, but yet you're still interested. You're not disinterested. You're kind of like, let's get going. But like you said, once it gets going, and I was like, oh wow, this is where this movie is heading. I was like in for it. Like you said, it takes about so I guess that would be a critique. But again, even then, it's not like it's boring. You're still entertained, and you're still like they're setting up the pieces to make it good. So I don't really have a big downfall with this movie or critique. Like I really enjoyed it.
And there's stuff in there that's just flat out weird. And I think if anybody else had made the movie, it would be just kind of weird and we would walk away shaking our heads. For example, folks, there's going to be a character who's missing their entire upper torso, essentially, and they squirt bodily fluids. And yet somehow it's humorous. It's gross, squeamishly fun somehow. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. And I think this one's far more gross than the original. Michelle, is that fair? Far more gross than the first?
Well, I think it could be. I think it is probably more. It
There's
is
more
gross,
ooze.
but at the same
goo.
time, I will say the first one feels a little more to me like a really bad dream. This one was just like so much fun. Like I didn't even think about the fact I was in a bad dream, though there's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah. Nolan, I'll tell you why you can't get a 10 out of 10. You're gonna have to retcon your score.
Okay.
You feel
right.
bad for Bob. You feel bad for Bob.
Yeah.
Bob was done dirty, Nolan.
He was, but you know what? I won't spoil nothing, but in the credits, they really give him his moment to shine, and it was very unexpected, and I think there's a little bit of Bob in all of us, and I think he will forever be known.
Just a little bit of Bob in all of us. And not Bob's Burgers, folks. We're talking about Bob, who is, he's in the movie, and if you watch the one from the 80s, you'll recognize Bob, but you may not remember him until you see the name tag, and then you'll know. All right, Michelle, Nolan gave it a 10 out of 10. What say you? Where does Beetlejuice rank on a numerical score?
I would give it a 9 out of 10. I'm not going to give it
Folks, that's a 9.5 average so far. This movie is outperforming like crazy. I've seen people in the chat talking about how so-and-so gave it a bad score, and they don't believe what we're saying. You legitimately think it's a 9 out of 10?
Yes, I do. Like, again, it's not a perfect movie to me, but yet it was so entertaining. It was such a, here's the thing with Beetlejuice too. I know there is one, there's Beetlejuice, but this movie just stands out. The feel, the atmosphere, everything about it, the colors, like it's just so unique. Like it's its own thing. So you just so enjoy being in this world. And then there was a good script, and I think it actually has a pretty strong family message, actually.
It absolutely does.
Which I just think, just everything about it just feels good when you leave the theater. Like, I mean, people were laughing out loud throughout, and like there was good energy.
Myself included.
Michelle,
there were multiple times when I laughed out loud, and that's very rare.
Michelle, doesn't it feel weird to finally get a movie that's like, oh my gosh, it's exactly what I've been asking Hollywood for? Yes. A new movie. I know it's technically a sequel, but it's fresh. It's original. Remember back when we used to get these all the time?
Yes. No. Yes. That's a great word. This felt. I know it's not an original because there's Beetlejuice. That's what I was trying to say. But this movie felt original compared to everything else we've been seeing this year. It's so unique. And last thing I will say too, I had to think like there's this one scene. There's a few dancing scenes, I guess. But Jenna Ortega was just kind of there, and it's like, man, she has picked great. She has had great career choices. Like she is going to be a star. Like what a movie to get put in after last year's Wednesday. Wow. So I think
this is going to blow away box office projections. I'll be honest.
I think it will. I genuinely, I have not done this all year long. I want to go see this again this weekend. Okay.
Michelle?
I would have been happy to see this movie immediately after seeing it. Like, I'm already planning on seeing it again with my folks. Like, I will go same weekend as well. Like, I cannot believe how much I love this movie. Like, I wasn't like a diehard for the original. I thought it was good, but when I think Keaton, I think Batman. When I think Burton, I think Batman, other films and stuff, eluding my head right now, but it was great. Like, I cannot ask for any more from this movie.
So, okay, to you both then, and I know one of you has a very different opinion. Deadpool and Wolverine. Beetlejuice. Which one's funnier?
Definitely Beetlejuice.
Yes, absolutely.
Close.
Oh my gosh, they're both that quick on the draw. All right, Nolan, explain why is Beetlejuice that much funnier than Deadpool and Wolverine?
I'll
It's
tell you
just
right
so much
now
more
because
lighthearted, and then the humor is so quirky, but yet it just flows like all throughout. Like all the humor worked, and then you've got Michael Keaton just being totally crazy. So like it just my
Such
gosh,
dry humor.
he felt like literally he recorded the first movie like 2 days ago. That's how much he nailed this character again.
That's very true. Nolan?
I completely agree with what Michelle's saying. I don't think it's even close because I think this film excelled at something I don't think Deadpool and Wolverine managed to land, which was gore humor. Because I think Deadpool and Wolverine...
Go ahead, Nolan, spill your guts.
I think back to that spot, and I know this might be controversial. I think of that spot in the movie with the nice Deadpool, where the joke is that he's like so nice and he gets horribly mutilated and all that. This film, you have a character who's literally cut in half and he's squirting his blood everywhere, but it's actually funny. It's funny. Like,
because he speaks with a gurgling sound.
Spirited.
He speaks with a gurgling sound. It's really funny.
It's so hard to do. I think back, I don't think this is necessarily a spoiler to say, but there's a spot in the movie, very early in the movie, where you see one of the characters and they're literally in pieces. And you see red, to symbolize like the blood and all that stuff. And she's stapling herself together. And that could easily... The things that tend to gross me out more in movies are stuff like the little things like that. Like take like the 1980s The Thing movie, where you have all that crazy stuff going on. But when I saw it for the first time when I was a teenager, the spot that got me in the movie was when they had like cut their finger, to check if they were the monster or not. Those little realistic things tend to hit my stomach a little more. But I had to admire when I was watching the movie. I was thinking about like, this could have easily been so gross, making everyone in the audience feel uncomfortable. But they shot it in a way that it felt very, okay, it's creepy, it's quirky, but it's fun. But
it was Addams Family. That's what did it. The hand was crawling around like the Addams Family, and it made it funny, right? There's those little moments, but it still doesn't betray the seriousness of it through the humor, and that's that dry humor I'm talking about. That's from Ghostbusters, and it was in the original Beetlejuice, where you don't unground the thing that you're doing, because if you do, then it turns the whole thing into a joke, and if the whole thing's a joke, then when the mom and the daughter have a relationship that's soured, then you can't have the big feels if they ever get it back together. So if you unground everything, if it's totally unmoored, you lose the comedy. And that's what's happened in so many of our comedies, the few that remain, and that's what Beetlejuice gets, is that it allows these characters to still have the gravity they need for the humor to be real when they do funny things. And by the way, whoever managed to find the guy who plays the priest and does those mouth movements when he's not in control of speaking, that I don't know, like, how do you cast that? How do you put in the casting call, need an older man who can pretend to have his facial expressions captured by a demon, and what kind of gift is that? I don't even understand how you find the man. But anyway.
It's called good filmmaking. It's something that a lot of people used to be good at. They took the extra time to get the details right. You look at a lot of movies being casted now, and the audience is like, they don't look anything like the character. And they're like, well, just wait and see the movie. It's going to be like when Michael Keaton was Batman. And then you see it and you find that a lot of these actors are like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. It just doesn't land. And I think we've lost something in a lot of these more corporate-driven movies. When you have a director without a name, is they have a vision. We want this actor to be a checkbox, as opposed to let's find the best person that hits the vision and the imagination of this director. Whether it's leaning in this direction, whatever. I like seeing products that reflect the director, and I don't want to give all the credit to Burton here, because this definitely took a lot of very talented filmmakers. There's 3 people trying to claim Nightmare Before Christmas as their own over the years. There's a lot of talented people that go into this sort of thing. And I think it's the job of the director and probably the studio as well, get the best people for the job who can find talent. Because when you find people who take their art seriously, you will get amazing films like this. And I think that's something that's been lost a lot recently.
Absolutely. And I'll say this too. One of the things that is fascinating to me is that as I left the theater, I realized that I had seen something special. I had received my money's worth. I had been at an event. There was magic to it that you don't often get in movies anymore. The magic has been gone at times. This felt like a magical trip into a world that doesn't exist, but that was tangible. And in a world of avatars, this one you could feel, you could touch, and man, do I ever miss practical effects. And this just reminded me of that. It's not a perfect movie. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Now, I'll say it made me laugh probably 10 times out loud or chuckle. And that is a feat. I don't typically laugh out loud at films. This one got me several times and made me very happy. So I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. Folks, what does that mean? Well, when you add in the scores of everybody here on the panel who's seen it, John is taking a break because he has not yet had the chance to go see it. Beetlejuice review score officially here on the Pro Channel, 9.2 out of 10. That puts it in excellent territory, and it means that you should go see this film. And panelists, that also means that officially this received a higher score than Deadpool and Wolverine from us. I am shocked. We gave Deadpool and Wolverine an 8.4 out of 10, but in retrospect, I gotta say, I too think this is a better movie. But if you give me Beetlejuice and Wolverine next year, I'll go watch it 10 times, please. Beetlejuice and Wolverine, please, I beg you.
Wilton, what are you doing?
Well, word on the street is the culture war has officially made it to the doorstep of that park place. And I realized Jonas has no one there who loves him. So I thought I should go and protect them.
Yeah, okay. You know that's not, how you do this, right?
Do what? Fight? Don't worry, Floral. I will not be intimidated by a criminal threat.
Threat? Wilton, don't be ridiculous.
What does it matter to me? I have only one life to lose.
I mean, I totally expected you to die walking into traffic, but,
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Okay, just stop. This is just nonsense. You already have one of the easiest and most effective tools and weapons at your fingertips.
My axe?
No. The truth. Stay smart and ready to tell and share the truth by keeping up to date with WDW Pro, That Park Place, as well as Valiant Renegade.
And Jonas? I mean, he does things with Vash, and that's not very reassuring. That's like putting two helpless chipmunks into a piranha pond.
That's neither true nor accurate. Unlike the team from That Park Place.
Sue me.
Ugh.